Good afternoon, everyone. It's the 1st of May, and you know what that means? 9 days to Uncharted 4.
Woo!
Holy crap. So excited.
I can see it.
So excited. How's it going, guys?
Very good.
Yeah?
Very good.
Yeah,
very good.
What you been up to?
Not so much. I went for a walk this morning to JB. I think you went to JB as well, Balthazar. And I actually saw, in real life, the yoga instructor from GTA 5.
Wow.
No shit. Real life.
Nice.
You know the one?
Yeah. The massive douchebag ponytail and like.
It was down in the Civic Square down there, and there was a girl with him, and he was there. He had a puffer jacket on, and he had they were like literally like talking about yoga poses and things, and he had the shaved back of his head and the man bun at the back.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And he was like sort of standing tall and regal like a yoga instructor would, and like giving her like advice on her yoga poses. I couldn't believe it.
Was he sort of
so good?
Standing positioned behind her,
with his hands inappropriately.
She was down in a pose.
Yeah. Downward facing dog.
Not at the moment that I saw him, but it was too good. Like I wanted to stop and just kind of slowly take a video, just so I could share it.
Should have, man. We could have tweeted that.
It was too good.
That's incredible. Well, that's art imitating life. No, life imitating art. The other way around.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yep.
Yeah. But aside from that, it's just been a normal week.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Anything crazy going on?
No, not particularly. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the industry, but we'll talk about that a bit later.
I thought it was going to be a nice, clever little segue there.
Unfortunately not. No, not on my game today.
Never mind.
Let's talk about gaming, guys. What have we all been playing, Balthazar? You first, mate.
All right. A lot of Dark Souls 3.
Yep.
Predictably, since it came out.
What do you think of Dark Souls 3?
It's great.
Yeah.
I've been diving into the PvP a lot more than I have in any of the previous games. And I think that's what's made it great. I know there's a lot of kind of contention out there for Dark Souls 3 saying, oh, it's too easy for a Souls game and everything. But of course that is referring only to the PvE. When you get into the PvP, it requires just as much skill as ever kind of thing. You're facing other people who are going to exploit things just as much as you.
Is it significantly easier than, like, for example, me, who's never played a Dark Souls, am I still going to come along to this game and get my ass handed to me?
Probably.
Yeah.
As someone who's never played it, it's still going to be harder than what you're used to.
Yeah.
But if you're someone like me who's played every Souls game and Bloodborne before it, it definitely feels a lot easier. And I think it's largely down to the fact that a lot of the weapons that are more unbalanced for PvE terms, like things that can stagger enemies and break poise and stuff, are available to you very early on in the game.
Interesting.
And are a lot better than usual. So it's something you can do in Souls games is you can buff your gear, not just through leveling it up, but through magic. So you could do stuff like apply magic to your weapon, so as well as its physical damage, it deals magic damage. Now the thing they do to stop weapons scaling up too much with stuff like that is they will prevent some weapons from being buffed. So if a weapon already has some innate abilities that are pretty awesome, you won't be able to also buff it with magic.
Right.
Dark Souls 3 seems to have a problem identified quite early on, that a lot of the strongest weapons are also able to be buffed, which just means that you get into the situation where everything's downing way too quickly in PvE. I mean, bosses are about the only thing that are providing a challenge, and even then a lot of them are easy as soon as you learn the mechanics. Typically, bosses...
Is there a New Game Plus type thing that's going to be like twice as hard, which will...
Now, I've not gone into New Game Plus yet. I'm up to the final boss. I've just been helping people kill it, mostly just because I'm waiting for a friend I'm playing through the whole game with to come on, and we'll beat the final boss together. Though I have already killed it a couple of times for other people, and again, it seems far too easy. Dark Souls 2 had the same problem with the final boss being really easy. But New Game Plus, from what I've heard, is a major disappointment. It's barely more difficult than the original, and you've probably already out-leveled and outscaled what the enemies are going to be when you start it.
Interesting.
So it sounds like that's not really a thing. I mean, Dark Souls 2, a lot of people dislike it. not for the difficulty or anything, but just because it changed a lot in a negative way from the previous games. But there's one thing it did really well, and that was New Game Plus. It didn't just make enemies stronger, it didn't just give them more health.
Yeah.
It added new enemies.
New Game Plus should hand your ass to you.
Yeah.
Especially in a game like Dark Souls. Like,
Yeah.
it just should be like, okay, cool. You think you've got this sorted out. Here is something that's just gonna fucking destroy.
Yeah,
your
and I
soul.
remember Demon's Souls did that very much. When I went to New Game Plus on that, I hated it. Because I just finally learned the game and what I was doing, and things were starting to work, and then those things weren't working anymore. But now, as I said, I haven't started New Game Plus, but from what I've heard, it's, and I'm loath to start it just because I don't want to lose access to all the areas I have access to because I'm so into the PvP. I'm at soul level 120, which is the current PvP meta level, for having, everyone that level or around that level, having good builds and fighting each other. So I don't want to lose access to those areas where everyone is PvPing. So
the fact that you say it's easier makes me excited because I do like those games and I want to get into them, but Bloodborne it's just too hard for me. I love the atmosphere and I love the story and everything like that, but the gameplay, I'm just like, it's punishing, as you would expect for a Souls type game. The fact that you've said it's easier, I'm like, maybe this is something.
Yeah,
else.
I would say compared to Bloodborne, it's a lot easier.
Oh, really?
Like,
Okay.
so there are other games that I may say, like, for example, compared to Dark Souls 1, it's easier. Compared to Dark Souls 2, it's easier.
Right.
About the same, but easier. Compared to Bloodborne, much easier. Compared to Demon's Souls, it's like a Lego game. Like, it's like there's no way to fail. But yeah, no, I've been loving the PvP. Kind of probably one of the best examples of how fun it can be is in an area just before you reach a place called Anor Londo. After one of the bosses, there's a covenant which will keep invading you. If you're not in the covenant, it's called the Aldrich Faithful, and they basically defend this guy. And if you're not in the covenant, you'll be constantly invaded by people who are in it because you're seen as a threat to this guy. So I opened the secret area with a ladder that drops down to the pit that this guy is in, and I would get invaded. I summoned my friend Kylan. We'd play around with rings. There's a couple of rings you can wear that change what you look like. So between a phantom, the actual host of the world kind of thing. So we'd swap around. So if I was the host, I'd wear a phantom ring, or if he was the host, I'd wear a thing. So they couldn't tell who was the actual host of the world and who was the summoned ally.
Like, is there a benefit to be gained from that?
Simply that the person invading doesn't know who to go for.
Right.
Normally, if you can see it, you have a clear target. You're like, cool, there's 3 guys here, 1v3, I'm at a disadvantage, but if I can just get in and kill this one guy who's the host, I fulfill my objective. I don't need to kill all 3. So if you screw around with stuff like that, they don't know who to go for. They just have to fight everyone to see who is the correct host.
Is that an intentional design choice?
I'd say it is, definitely, yeah. And we went down this ladder and we'd wait until we get summoned, and then I would climb to the top of the ladder, or he would climb to the top of the ladder, wait until we see the person who's invaded, run towards the ladder, look like we're running away, then slide down the ladder. The guy would follow down the ladder and the other of us would be hidden behind a wall, so we'd run, he'd run around the wall, and the other one would jump out and just backstab him and kill him in one go. And then we'd both just stand over his body, constantly sitting and standing over his head, and then move on and rinse and repeat. There was a point where we had about 9 people in our game at once. We summoned another guy, we got invaded by 2 guys, and we got Covenant invaded by 2 guys, and it was a mess. Like, there were just people everywhere, and we pulled them all down into this area, and it was just like an arena. It's just like this water-drenched underground arena, and it was a really cool freaking fight. We ended up surviving. We racked up a kill count of like 30 or so before we finally died, just pulling people down into this area and fighting them on our terms. But no, there's a lot of fun to be had in the PvP of that game, especially if you're playing it with someone else. Yeah.
So there's no, like, the PvP is integrated into the PvE, right? It's, same as...
So if you're a unembered, so the system is basically embered or unembered. If you're embered, you are alive and you're kind of the host within that world. You can be invaded. If you're unembered, you can't be invaded. So that's kind of a mechanic to protect you if you do just want to play through the game. You can either disconnect from the internet or just unember yourself by dying. If you die, you unember. So yeah, if you are embered, it's pretty much integrated. There are specific areas that you're much more likely to encounter people in PvP. but you always have a chance of being invaded if you're angry,
Right.
pretty much. There's also items you can use to increase the chance of being invaded.
Except the soapstones.
No, so soapstones, you can use those to call for allies to summon an invader. So you can put down a red soapstone, which is basically a dueling soapstone. If you summon that person, they are an enemy. There's also the red eye orbs, which you use to invade. That just searches for anyone who's around your level. Or you can use this thing called a dried finger, which allows you to...
Oh my god.
It allows you
Who thought of these names? Some guys sitting in the room.
Yeah.
We need an
Dried
item
fingers.
that... What does it do? What is it?
So it lets you summon one more ally, but also widely increases your chance of being invaded by someone.
Why a dried
I don't know.
finger?
No
Just be as
idea.
morbid as possible.
Yeah. But no, it's it's
man.
really fun. I'm really enjoying it, despite it being easier. Yeah.
Yeah, but all the sort of trappings of the Soul series are there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that has been refined. So stuff like backstabbing and kind of doing what they call just the critical attacks after breaking a block and stuff. Feel a lot more fluid online. They feel like they work, whereas previously, I for one could never get a backstab off online in Dark Souls 1 and 2 and stuff. I think latency being in New Zealand, I would look like I was behind someone, but actually they were 10 feet away from me.
Yep.
It all seems to work in Dark
Sounds about
Souls
right,
3
yeah.
now.
That feel.
Like, it works. If I'm behind them and I use it, I will backstab them. So I'm not sure what they've done, whether they've just changed the matchmaking so you're playing more likely to play regionally or something. I don't know. But all the systems seem to work online now, which is nice. And the password matchmaking system is good as well, where you can both of you put in a password and then you can always summon that person.
Like nicely reminiscent of old games where you enter passwords to warp to a level or something, before they had memory cards, and before they had save functions kind of thing.
Just looping back to the difficulty thing, I'm just kind of sort of been pondering that. Like, do you think, because typically if you were, in my mind, if you were going to downgrade the difficulty of a game that has a tradition behind it, you'd be kind of doing that in the hopes that you'd be getting new players on board with it, which is weird when you do that in like Dark Souls 3, like the third kind of iteration. Has there been any talk of this being kind of like the final game in the series? Because I'm sort of thinking like, are they trying to get a whole bunch of new people on board so that they can do something with their next game, or?
I think that's probably the case. I don't know.
Because there has to be a conscious decision behind it. They can't go, okay, we're going to make this game easier just because we want to. Because you know that when you're dealing with Dark Souls, you're like, we've got a massive fan following, and they love the shit out of these games because they're hard. Like you're making a conscious decision there, and I just.
Well, interestingly enough, From Software have unveiled they're working on a new IP. So they obviously this is either the end. I don't think this is the end of this Dark Souls series, but this seems like a trilogy. It seems like a complete trilogy for the time being.
Right.
They might start a new trilogy.
Are there any story arcs that finish up, or is it? I'm getting into spoiler territory here.
The story is very vague.
There is kind of an ending in this one. There's certain things you can do. So you've always been able to choose a couple of things for the ending, basically, like A or B, end the world or continue the world as it is, and the sequels will always assume that you continued the world as it was, kind of thing. This one has more. This game has 4 potential endings based on NPC quest lines you've done. And kind of various items you can find, and there is definitely a very finite ending to this one from what I can tell. One of the endings very much feels just like you've ended the whole thing. So I would say that they're potentially going with an ending for now. It was really cool how they made a lot of references and brought a lot of stuff from Demon's Souls into 3, kind of effectively showing that this is the same world, whereas previously there was a character who carried over, this guy Patches, who's an absolute cunt. He was in every game.
Patches.
And he was kind of just the single link that was like, but it could have also just been a tribute. Could have just been like, From's put this NPC in because people hated him, and it's funny. But now the amount of things in 3 that are from Demon's Souls, even really subtle things that if you weren't a lore kind of hound you wouldn't pick up on, like stuff talking about the Knights of Kareem in 3 and how they would dedicate their entire lives to just one maiden and tending to one maiden. And it was particularly referring to a guy in Dark Souls 3 called Morn who looks after priestess something who teaches you miracles. She was a forgettable character, so I don't really care. but also directly relates back to a boss from Demon Souls, Garl Vinland, sorry, and his like maiden Astraea, who he looked after, who was one of the coolest. And I think anyone who's played Demon Souls, like, he's one of the most iconic characters from that game. People love him, and he was a badass. That fight was mental. You could either fight him, and then she would give up on life, basically, and be like, you are the monster here, not us. We're just sitting here minding our own business, and you've just come along and killed him. Take my soul. You're the fucking demon here. Or you could kill her from above before engaging him, and then he would do the same thing and just be like, you absolute monster, what have you done? And that was really cool, and people loved that fight, that little story with them. Even just stuff from 3 relating back to Demon Souls. I would hope that they were going to make a Demon Souls 2 if they were going to continue more, and that's not a new IP, so that's doubtful, you know, the thing they're working on. But I think for the Souls series, that would be a logical next step to take. So they've kind of ended the Dark Souls story, but they have very clearly established that the Demon Souls and Dark Souls stories are intertwined. So I say go back to Demon Souls and make a Demon Souls 2.
Continue the universe through there.
Interesting. Well, I mean, from Dark Souls into something probably a bit more light, both in tone and visually. What else have you been playing?
Ratchet and Clank.
Ratchet and Clank.
The remake.
See that?
Wow.
That's what you call a segue.
Yeah, nice.
No, Ratchet and Clank. I've not played a massive amount, probably 2 to 3 hours. I'm just on the first few planets. It's fun. It's odd for this to be kind of considered a sort of praise for it, but it looks how I remember Ratchet and Clank looking.
I know what you mean.
I think is the best way of saying it. And if you've recently played Ratchet and Clank, you'd be like, oh my god, it looks like crap. But I haven't recently played it. I only have memories of having played it like 15 years ago or whatever. And it now looks like what my memories of the original Ratchet and Clank are, which I think is high praise. Like, they've managed to capture exactly everything you fondly remembered it being, which is really cool. Mechanically, it feels the same and quite different simultaneously. You still, it plays largely the same. You know, you run through, you're jumping over stuff, you're hitting stuff with your wrench, but when it comes to the guns, it feels a lot more robust in the shooting mechanics.
They have that alternate control scheme, with the you can change it from sort of running and jumping platformer to a third-person shooter control, so you're more strafing and things like that, so it's easier to target enemies in that way, kind of thing.
Is that something that is quickly switched between, or is it something that is like a setting in the actual...
It's a setting in the options,
right.
So I started playing on the platforming one, and then I switched to third person. I was like, nah, I'm just going to use this one now.
Which is the default? Is the platforming one?
Platforming one's the default.
So I've just been playing on platforming. I haven't changed the options at all, and it's still fully. I mean, it feels more robust than the shooting anyway, because when you hold down L2, you go into third person shooter mode where you are strafing around and everything.
Right.
So it just, even in the platforming control scheme, the shooting feels much more refined than I remember it being. That said, it's still usually most effective to just run at shit and hit it with your wrench.
I had a lot of stuff. A lot of the smaller enemies.
But no, it's a lot of fun. Definitely be sinking some more hours into that and finishing that up.
It's just it's a gorgeous looking game. It's got that thing that I remember from Ratchet and Clank, and you know, when I didn't used to like it back in the day because I was a Jack and Daxter fanboy, but I still appreciated it. And everything seems to pop. Every environment, every object in the environment, every asset just pops out from everything else. It's all completely separate, and it looks absolutely gorgeous
in terms of sort of like an artistic
definitely. Everything's got its own coat of paint kind of thing, and everything stands out, so you're never missing anything, and you're you can see a bolt from miles away, just a single bolt. The bolts are the things you collect, your currency essentially. But no, it's really good fun. I'm really enjoying it. I've also only played it. I played about 2 hours of it this morning, maybe an hour and a half of it this morning, and loving it. But the thing when I jumped into it, because I came from God of War 3 into Ratchet and Clank, so I just finished up God of War 3 as well, which
equally different in tone.
Very much so, very much so.
See, I thought your segue earlier, you were segueing into God of War 3, and I was like, it's not that much different.
No, I went for the contrast option.
Nice.
It's a gorgeous game and everything, but when I started it up, coming from God of War 3, which is running at 60 FPS because it's the remaster, very jarring, and I feel like Ratchet and Clank could have benefited a lot from a higher frame rate. I know that's probably not possible with the PS4 limitations, but there's just something about it. I was just like, oh, it's so beautiful and it looks so slick, but then it feels like I'm just missing a couple of frames in there.
I'm surprised that it's not running that high.
I think it just looks too good. I think it's pushing the PS4.
I'm definitely interested to see how that comes into play in some of the more furious sequences. So far, early days, it's been quite light on stuff on the screen. Probably the most I've had going on at once, it was something I did just before leaving for this, actually, taking out all of the land sharks on one of the planets where land sharks just keep popping up and you've got to kind of destroy the plants that for some reason create sharks and then kill them all. And it stayed solid then, but I'm wondering if we get sequences where there's a lot on screen and things are moving quickly. Specifically, I'm thinking the hoverboard races and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how that will play at 30 and if that will feel a bit more clunky.
Yeah, well, from all the bolts, I mean, there's a lot of particles on the screen for sure. When you smash a crate, bits of crate go everywhere. They don't hang around or anything like that, they disappear, but there's always a lot of bolts and a lot of bits and pieces on the screen like that, and I feel like this would have been such a good release game for the PS4 instead of NAC.
Absolutely.
Right. So much. But imagine people's reaction if this came out instead of NAC. That PS4s would have, I mean, they sold like hotcakes anyway, but still.
Yeah.
And I think visually I'm in the opposite boat to you with Ratchet and Clank, in that normally I'm very, judgmental of FPS, playing probably primarily on PC nowadays. But I moved from Dark Souls to Ratchet and Clank, which had moments where it dropped to like 2 FPS, and it was just appalling. So for me, it was just nice to have a stable frame rate again that wasn't up and down all over the place. So I'm enjoying it.
It sounds to me like in general though the kind of core quirks and those bits and pieces that made the original are all there.
Definitely.
My experience of Ratchet and Clank was pretty limited in that I had maybe sat down for an afternoon with a mate of mine to play it, and just loving all the crazy ass guns that were in the game. All of that sort of stuff, I feel like all of that is still there.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's a comedy game, is what it is essentially. It's comedy. Everything's done for comedic value in that game, and it hits those notes. It's not really my type of comedy, but I can appreciate it because I'm just enjoying the game so much anyway. It's a bit irreverent and it gets a bit over the top sometimes, but it's fine for what it sets out to do. Yeah. And it does it very well. So.
Have you got any plans to see the movie?
No. Not in the slightest. I don't want to tarnish my view of the new Ratchet and Clank with what appears to be a pretty abysmal film.
I think a key thing to note, kind of the difference is, as Abe said, he doesn't appreciate he doesn't necessarily get or approve of the comedy in it. He just, you just kind of are along for the ride because the gameplay is fun and you're enjoying playing the game. So if you remove the gameplay aspect of it and just throw the cheesy, over-the-top comedy, and that's it, and you just have to sit there and watch that, no,
sit down and you
watch it.
In the game, the bits that I least enjoy are the cutscenes, for sure. Right. I just want to get it, whatever.
Yeah,
just some story.
It's one of those things where you watch it because it looks nice. Yeah. So you're just like, I'm appreciating that the PS4's finally put something out that looks like it's using what the PS4 can do.
Apart from The Witcher 3.
Yeah. But that's more
apart from the order.
So.
And the
1886 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Best looking game on the PlayStation 4.
1996. We all know. We all remember growing up with those werewolves.
Everyone's got denim shirts on.
Yeah. Crimped hair.
Anyway, I'll move into God of War 3 because this is a strange one because I'm really excited about God of War 3 and it's a 6-year-old game. And I feel like I've just, I usually miss the bus on things, but the bus is like years gone now.
The bus has been out of commission. It's been torn down.
It's been turned into an aeroplane and flown off to some other country. But God of War 3 is awesome. It's really good. And I love God of War. I played God of War 1 and God of War 2 on PlayStation 2. Absolutely adored them. Never owned a PS3, so I never got a chance to play. I played a wee bit of God of War 3 at one point, probably only about half an hour, but I never got to play it, and I just rediscovering my love for that series because it's just fantastic. The bombacity of that series is insane.
The crazy sort of overkills when you come across like big Greek mythological creatures and things, and he's just taking them down.
The Titan, some of the Titan fights where because you fight the gods, but you also fight the Titans. And some of the Titan fights are just incredible, where you're just running up people's arms and stuff. And like,
so you've finished it now, right?
I've finished it.
I've
finished it. Yeah. So we'll say now. We'll probably talk God of War spoilers, God of War 3 spoilers, because it's a 6-year-old game.
6 years old. Yeah.
You're warned. God of War spoilers.
Spoilers. He fights Greek gods.
He
like
does.
it's not really much of a.
So he fights Zeus's dad, and then he fights Zeus's dad, Kronos. And when you take down Kronos.
Where you do that swimming thing and pull the spike up through his
so good
jaw.
through his
Yeah,
mouth.
it's so brutal.
That's incredible. And I'll tell you one thing about God of War though. I don't remember it, probably because when I played 1 and 2, I was 13 or something like that, 14 years old. It's very cheesy, like incredibly cheesy. The dialogue and stuff is just all, I am Kratos. I am bloodlust and I'll get you. And it's
great.
It's fantastic.
It forms Kratos as a character.
Yeah. But I don't think I realised it was that cheesy back in the day.
I mean, it's pretty bold how cheesy it is. Like to finish an entire franchise on the line, my vengeance is sated, and that's it. And that's the end of the entire franchise. Like, what?
It's incredible. So, some of the cutscenes I had to stop myself laughing because of the things that were being said. I was like, this is like a college production. Like the level of acting and the dialogue and stuff
and
like that.
And the desire to just throw nudity in your face every now and again to remind you.
It's fantastic. It doesn't give a toss.
It's all part of it. It's all part of it though. Like the sum of all of those parts is a great game. When you consider the ridiculous fight scenes, it wouldn't be the same if Kratos wasn't Kratos.
Yeah,
it's so good.
He's the big meathead. Oh, it's fantastic.
I'd forgotten that was the final line. That's just too good.
The thing, I'll tell you what I didn't like about the ending, which I thought was just, it sort of plays into this, but I thought they could have gone somewhere else. The fact that he wins using hope.
Oh yeah.
That's
the light when we have nothing else.
That was pretty brutal. Like I was expecting brutal was the good word for this game, but that was a bit over the top for me. I was like,
it's okay though, because
like,
when they brought him out, he did just continue to beat Zeus in the face until you chose to stop pressing.
So good. Your screen gets completely covered in blood, and I just keep pressing circle. I was like, hang on, I've been doing this for like 4 minutes now.
And then you stop and it ends.
I was like, oh, just keep beating him up. The best boss fight in that game, or the goriest, not counting Kronos, was Hercules, in which he has those big lion gloves on that he fights people with, and you slowly smash them off him, and eventually you get them. And when you kill him, you just pounding his face into nothing, and you see him, you literally smash him through the floor, and he ends up in this pool, and you can swim underneath him and see his face, and it's just this cavern. His face is there's just nothing. There's minus face.
Yeah,
it's so good. I haven't seen anything like that since Sin City, where he pounds that guy's face into just mush. It was fantastic. That's exactly what you want from a God of War game. It's so over the top and incredible.
A beautiful thing. Yeah, I think those games did a really good job on the hardware at the time as well. I remember playing them and thinking they looked really good. At the time.
And it's got the same thing. What you were talking about, Ratchet and Clank. It's got the thing where that's how I remember God of War 1 and God of War 2 looking. Is I played the God of War 3 remaster, and I was like, it's not amazing or anything, but it looks really, really nice. It looks good for the console it's on, kind of thing. I was like, it's quite enjoyable. Another thing things are just springing to mind. There's a puzzle in the game which deals with perspective, and there's a statue, and you step on a button and you can look through the statue's eyes, and it's sort of it's through this filter. And it sort of allows you to build this sort of MC Escher painting out of the architecture, and so you can build bridges where there's these two bits of concrete that aren't actually near each other, but you look through the statue and then the perspective allows them to join, and therefore you can walk up them. I thought that was incredible. That just came out of nowhere. I wish there was more puzzles like that in the game, because
for a different reason, I wish there were more puzzles like that in the game. I wish there was another one immediately after that one, because as soon as you get across the final bridge, Kratos smashes the crystals. We can't do it anymore. I'm like, well, let's just hope that's not a mechanic that's ever going to come back again, because you are fucked now.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
But yeah, that just came out from a game that, you know, your basic puzzles are moving levers and pulling wheels and stepping on buttons. That came out of nowhere, and I was like, that was actually a really good puzzle and incredible. Like, I was trying to think about the game, how they do that with gameplay. Like, how does that work?
Yeah.
How do these assets change from when you look at them one way, then they now have different properties? It's mind-boggling. I mean, that's why I don't make games, but yeah, fantastic. God of War 3, just so solid, and it's going to be one of those games. When I finish it, I was like, right, I'm never selling you.
Yeah.
I love finishing a game. I'm never going to sell it. Never going to sell it. Just going to sit there.
Is it going to be one of those games that you tell your kids about and, like, you know, make your kids play when you...
Potentially, although we have God of War 4 coming out
Yes.
very, very soon. I mean, it hasn't been announced, but it pretty much has.
Yeah.
Many leaks and things like that. But yeah, God of War 3, I mean, the last thing I wanted to touch on is it's hard. It is a hard game. I played it on normal because I'm not a difficulty whore like you guys. It's like the normal is what I would generally view as hard on some other game.
Yeah.
Normal is tough. There was points where I died multiple times, a lot of times. So it was challenging, but it was just tone it down a wee bit, like just a wee bit, because there was points where I was like, I honestly don't know how I can do this. And then I just picked it up.
But how good does it feel when you do get through those
Oh,
moments?
absolutely. Of course, it's got that, you know, that Dark Souls elation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of thing.
I mean, that's what the difficulty whoring, as you put it. Don't know how I feel about that term, but that's the whole satisfaction in that. It's like, oh my god, this is hard, but I'm going to continue and persevere and find those little bits, because I think when you push a game to that level, you start really getting an appreciation of how the developers have designed the level or the space that you're in for you to be able to actually get through it.
Right.
You know, so for an example would be like with Uncharted. You know, on the hardest levels, you've really got to think about where you are within that space that they've created, and so to me that's the best way to play a game, because you're getting really
tactical.
And you get an appreciation for how much thought those people put into that game when they
And I think a lot of people take this out of context, really. You know, a common expression used, aside from obviously get good, which isn't a good expression, is something like man up or man mode it. I don't think it's necessarily a statement being like, oh, you're a pussy if you can't do it, but it's kind of a commonly associated fact that of the two genders, males are known to have a slightly better mental spatial awareness of things. They can map things out in their heads slightly better, and that's how I've always taken that statement to mean, like man up. Like you said, it's the spatial awareness. It's knowing where you are positionally within the map, knowing where everything else is around you, and just keeping tabs of where everything is and how if you move here, where will everything else have just moved in relation to you.
Right.
That's how I've always taken that to mean, and I don't think that's how anyone else takes it,
No,
because
I don't
they're
think
always
so.
like, I'm a man, I'm not a man. But I've always thought, yeah, you know, just keep better tabs on where everything is. Like use your cognitive awareness skills to keep track of things. Like, there's no reason you can't do it if I can do it. I'm not a man.
Perseverance. There was a bit towards the end where you're fighting one of those Cerberus hounds with the 3 heads, and he's literally on fire, which I hadn't encountered an on fire one before. And then there's also these goat dudes who have these massive sword sickle things. I just hated those enemies so much. And then when that 2 of those showed up, plus the Cerberus hound, I was like, all right, here we go. And I must have died at least 5 times trying to do that, because I hate those guys, because I'd just be slashing away, and then one of those guys would somehow break through my chains or whip or whatever I was using, and just stab me and just whack me on the ground. I was like, that is bullshit. Stop that right now. You stop it.
This game is fucking broken.
I did get very angry. Not out loud, but I was frustrated. But no, excellent game. Highly advise anyone to pick up God of War 3 Remastered on PS4. You can get it for about, I got it off a popular auction website, and I got it for $30.
Nice.
So yeah, that's right. You got it for a similar price, didn't you?
I got it really cheap
Yeah.
when JB Hi-Fi did one of their what is it,
Cost
at cost
sales, yeah.
days.
Oh, right.
Or evenings or what have you.
You got it for about 30?
And got it for about 35.
35, yeah. Definitely
And
easily
that was
worth
when
it.
it was brand new, pretty much. Just well, not brand new, but the remake was brand new.
I feel like if any remasters are priced at around about $40 to $50, I'd buy them straight out, pretty much. Because I mean, things that only get remastered are, you know, generally the good games,
Yeah.
the games that are well praised by everyone, kind of thing. So yeah, I'd, you know, set those games at those prices, and I'll give you money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regan,
No, I got a game that wasn't that price. I got a game that was quite expensive and has led to more money expenditure, which is not ideal right before a trip to Europe.
no,
But I went out and bought Dirt Rally because I heard quite good things about it, and I guess I don't know about you guys, but can you think of a rally game that isn't sort of is geared towards more of a sort of simulation type thing rather than arcadey? Because typically rally games are going to be quite arcadey.
yeah, the Colin McRae, from what I can remember, but I don't think it was anywhere near that point.
I think back then it was kind of like the technology just wasn't advanced enough to really have a proper rally simulation. But anyway, this game Dirt Rally is quite hard, and that's coming from someone who's played a lot of racing games, and I really enjoy them, particularly Sims like Gran Turismo and all that kind of jazz. So I went out and I bought Dirt Rally as cheap as I could find it from the Big Red Shed, and took it home, only to find out that the really good steering wheel that I bought for my PlayStation 3
Right.
wouldn't operate on my PlayStation 4, which is pretty disappointing. Actually went online and found sort of a good number of threads of people kind of, it uncovered quite the online scandal around kind of like what's happening with these old steering wheel, and people from the companies like Logitech early on were saying things like, oh, they have to have a certain security chip in them for them to be able to work on PlayStation 4. People coming back on the forums going, well, what about this? Like, there's this steering wheel that works on the PlayStation 4 from Thrustmaster, but and that doesn't have a security chip in it, so why won't my Logitech steering wheel work? And people getting really heated, like, come on Logitech, step it up, like, go into bat for your product and all this kind of thing. And they just wouldn't respond. But it turns out that PlayStation, in early days, Sony signed an exclusive rights deal with Thrustmaster to supply steering wheels for the PlayStation 4. And so now, cut down the track, because I'm pretty sure these threads and things were from early days with the PlayStation 4. Now we've got steering wheels from all of the major suppliers. And so, but the shitty thing is I had two choices. I could either buy some parts and solder up an adapter for my old wheel.
Oh yeah, or makeshift
adapter, which apparently could be done relatively easily, but it would have taken time, or go and buy another cheap steering wheel, and I opted for option B. Didn't stick with Logitech, went and got a Thrustmaster one, their kind of cheapest one, and it's shite. Played it for a little bit this morning, and it's a bit rubbish. But anywho, back to Dirt Rally. The game itself is excellent. It's a lot of people online have complained that it's too hard, and that you can imagine if you were out going as fast as you could in a car on a dirt road, you would probably be realistically going like 50% of how fast that car could probably go.
I'd be in a ditch after about 10 meters.
Exactly. Any kind of foot to the floor type driving is you're just gonna be fucked. It's like that. You literally have to kind of really pull back to be able to get good.
Right.
Damn it!
It keeps going there.
Spelled with a U.
Yeah, get good. And in that sense, it's really fun. Like it kind of harkens back to the whole difficulty whore thing, and that I really like the fun for me in a game is having a game challenge me to the point where I can, build my skill and then get into a thing where I can really flow. So this game is just like that, and it really is like you hit a corner slightly wrong and you're just fucked. And if you go off the track and you do press triangle to kind of reset yourself back onto the track, it's like a 15-second penalty, which is massive. Like across a single stage that's maybe 3.5 minutes long, that might put you a minute behind, the leader if you
Right.
have two of those kind of things. So it's massive. So the difficulty is really high, which is cool. I love it. There's also some really cool sort of mechanics in the game around kind of having a crew, and you hire crew members to fix your car between rallies and things, and you get perks for the longer you have your crew, particular members in your crew. So if you do a certain number of kilometers in that car, your crew members get better and better, and they get to know the car,
so
and these
loyalty
kind of
bonus
things.
kind of
Yeah, exactly. And there's a team management aspect to it there. Lots of customization with the cars themselves as well, and all sorts of cars, all the way from currently I'm in a 1980s Lancia or something like that, all the way through to kind of the modern Sebastian Loeb super WRC cars kind of thing.
Right. So they're all licensed cars and
Yep.
drivers and things.
Yeah,
like
they are. There's no mention of drivers.
Oh, right.
But they are definitely cars that you
and
would
things.
see on TV.
Yeah.
Being driven by.
So forgive the ignorance, but rally is all time trial. There's never multiple people racing on the same.
Oh yeah, unless you're doing rally cross.
Right.
So there's three styles of racing in this game and in rally in general. There's classic rally, which time trials. So it's you'll have a series of stages, and it's the fastest person across all of those stages will win that rally.
Right.
There is rally cross, which is sort of like rally on a BMX track.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously not a BMX track, but kind of like you can imagine a BMX track type thing expanded out.
Big
to rally
mounds of
size.
dirt, jumps.
Yeah,
and things.
exactly. And then there's hill climbs.
Oh,
So
right.
there's the three, and hill climbs are basically it's 2 runs at the hill climb, and it's the best of your 2 runs counts as your run in the competition.
Right.
So those are the three kind of, and they're all in this game, and so far I've only completed, because I've only had the game a couple of days, I've only completed the first kind of couple championships.
Mhm.
But huge fan.
Yeah.
Yep, it's great.
I remember playing the old WRC demo on PlayStation 2, and this will show what sort of what I think about Sims. My entire MO when I was playing that game was to get the car to do as many. I was a skateboarder, so kickflips as possible, barrel rolls.
Yeah.
So I would be trying to go up walls and trying to get the car to do spins and flips, and just amazing. I enjoyed it for entirely different reasons. But
well, this game's good in that, and this is one of the first trophies I got, because I did a lot of crashing on my first couple of goes. Was I can't remember what the trophy was called, but it was roll the car, land on your wheels, and continue going. And I got a trophy for that.
That's excellent.
Which is cool.
nice.
It's
a good looking game, I'm assuming.
It's a really good looking game. Yeah, the damage on the cars is really cool as well. There's another trophy for crashing your car so badly that it ends your rally.
Oh,
So
that's what I'm into.
and I've tried to get it, and I haven't got it yet. So you must have to bail big time.
I'll have to come around. I'll do that one for you.
Yeah, absolutely. yeah, you're welcome. So it's a really cool game, cool mechanics. I think it's going to gear to, once you get through all the single player stuff, there's probably going to be a lot of online PvP kind of challenges and things, which is cool.
Yep.
And it seems like there's it's kind of the whole sort of EA thing where you've got to sign up to an account for that. So I can't remember for a Codemasters account.
Codemasters, right?
Yeah, who traditionally have done really good rally games.
They do. Yeah, they do excellent racing games in general.
Yeah, exactly. And so you sign up to that, and then there's going to be a cross-game league that you can enter, where you can do the same stuff in other Codemasters games. So that's really cool. But if you're out there and you're thinking to yourself, hey, thinking about getting a new racing game or something, a really sim-based game, then Dirt Rally for sure. Excellent.
Ringing endorsement.
Excellent. Yeah.
Ringing Harper. What else have you been playing, man?
Start of the week was Mafia II.
Nice.
Yeah, went in and got a cheap copy of Mafia II for $9 or something like that.
Beautiful.
This
is on PlayStation 3.
Yes. Yep. PS3. Kind of fortunate in that my flatmate has a PS3 that I've sort of just commandeered, shall we say, at the moment.
Yep.
But yeah, Mafia 2 is cool. Did you guys play Mafia?
I never played any of the Mafias.
It was last year sometime. I think it was free on PS3, PlayStation Plus.
Oh, yeah.
So I downloaded it, but I never
played it.
Played it at all. No, it's one of those ones that was like, oh, I've heard great things. I really want to play it, and then just never.
The only thing I know about the series, and I don't think this is 2, it might be 1, is that you have to stick to the speed limit, and I always thought that would be incredibly difficult.
Yeah. So it's in
2 as well.
2 as well. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, but it's kind of interesting because the cars aren't that fast, so it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Anyway, but what surprised me. There's a mode, so you can set it up. So you press X or square, however you have your controller configured, and it will put a cap on how fast your car will go. So you don't really have to manage it yourself. You can just press this button, and your car will just kind of meander around.
I guess that's their way of quelling what I would assume have been a lot of hate for that mechanic.
Yeah,
in the first
it would have been really fucking annoying. But to be fair, even when they do spot you speeding, it's not difficult to get away from the police.
Right.
You can literally
You just keep
speed
speeding.
down. Yeah, exactly. You keep speeding, speed down the road, take a left, take a right. You're sorted.
Yeah. And when you say speeding, I'm assuming in these old timey cars it's about 70 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, probably 70 plus. Like there's a couple big hot roads and things in the game that'll get you into trouble, but yeah, I mean the handling isn't particularly amazing. The brakes are really shoddy, but that's not the core mechanic of the game anyway. I mean it's an older game, so everything about it is a little bit clunky.
Yeah.
But there's some really good points of the game as well. So I mean, if you're the kind of person who doesn't like if you play old games and find them really clunky and you don't like the way the controls are mapped and all that sort of thing, it's probably going to be a bit to put you off.
Right.
But I think the redeeming qualities of Mafia 2 was it sort of plays like a movie, and not in the sense like not in sort of an Uncharted type of sense where it's very linear. Well, it is still linear, but it's within a sandboxy kind of world.
Right.
So
Still sort of cinematic.
yeah, exactly. So you get the characters are really strong, and all those kind of tropes that you would expect in a story-driven kind of, in a movie or a plot like that, they're all there.
Right.
And it's very Italian, and builds in all of those kind of things. Like you're essentially you are Vito. His name's Vito, which is great. The main character. And he is a war vet, and he comes back from the war. His mate basically pulls some strings in the mafia to mean that he then doesn't have to go back to war, and then it's just you pursuing a career in crime essentially, and other bits and pieces being happening along the road.
So this is set in America?
Set in America in 1930,
40?
Somewhere
around there. In New York, is it? Or,
New York, yeah. And the city is really cool. It's really it's not the prettiest because there was always Grand Theft Auto, which always looked really good at the time, and so but it still does a really good job at building kind of the feel of the city, I guess, like with the old timey cars and the radio stations that they have on there and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a mix between one of those kind of linear games and a sandboxy world, where there's always kind of a direct line on your map to the next kind of objective sort of thing. So
Right.
it kind of skirts that really well. Gunplay's pretty clunky, but it's really kind of the story that I'm enjoying so far that's kind of redeeming it. But it's just a bit of fun to kind of fill in the gaps, basically.
With the gunplay, is it satisfying?
Not really.
No? That's unfortunate.
Yeah, but I mean, probably at the time it was. But now, when we've got games that are coming out, and you shoot a shotgun, and it feels like you've just shot a shotgun.
Yeah.
Not quite. It's you've got guns, and cover-based shooting now. You're behind cover, and then you hold a button, and he sits up, and he kind of shoots, and then he gets back down, kind of thing. Like think Uncharted. It's like that, but he's always got his hands out in front of him with the gun kind of ready, and so just the animations are clunky, and the camera work and things, and it just kind of shakes around quite a bit and doesn't feel as smooth as it could be. So it just sort of shoots itself in the foot a little bit on those kind of things. But I mean, it's an old game.
Yeah.
Like it's that was given away on PlayStation. Yes, and recently. But I mean, it's worth a look into if you've got nothing to do between now and
9 days.
9 days from now.
Yeah.
Shutting up to-
Are you
Yeah.
keen? Are you going to be looking into Mafia 3 when that comes out?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I think so. It'll be really interesting to see how they work in that particular style of gameplay, because, you know, GTA's just got it covered as far as it being sandboxy, being able to do whatever you want. So, you know, how are they not going to be a total GTA clone? What are they going to do to have their own sort of mafia spice in there?
Yeah. And it's set in New Orleans, which is interesting. That's going to make
New Bordeaux.
Yeah.
But definitely, I think that's kind of what this year's been about for me, is revisiting a lot of old franchises to kind of get an idea as the next iteration comes out.
Right.
So it's there's definitely enough there for me to go, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna give the next one a go for sure.
Excellent. Well, speaking of old franchises and next iterations not coming out, Zelda. The Legend of Zelda, Legacy of Zelda, the Legend of Zelda for Wii U has been delayed.
Yeah.
Has been delayed until next year, and as has the NX, which was announced as being released March next year as well. So Nintendo looking to have a pretty empty plate at E3 there. They have said the Legend of Zelda will be playable and on the show floor. Pretty much said jack shit about anything else, so I don't know what they're going to be showing off, unless it's Diddy Kong Racing 2, in which I take back everything I just said.
Diddy Kong Racing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it seems like a terrible move on their part. I mean, no one's going to be thinking about Nintendo at all post June.
I'm okay with it though, because I think if Sony and Microsoft are going to come in and go wank all over their new, these new sort of Xbox One 2 or PlayStation Neo, I'm okay with Nintendo going, you know what, you guys can just fucking do whatever you want this year through. We're just going to step back, use this time to just work on making it good, and just leave the limelight to them. And if they come out with an excellent console next year, then I'm okay with it. It could be a good thing.
I'm very disappointed, because I was amping myself up for the big Nintendo reveal, which Nintendo Direct, prior to E3, and that would be the start of the E3, and then we can get into all the new consoles and all that jazz. But nothing. Now I've got Legend of Zelda. Yeah, that's all well and good. I've never played a Zelda game apart from the top-down one, so I'm not that keen on that. So NX being delayed, I'm pretty gutted actually. Not particularly happy about that, but I don't know, we'll have to keep an eye on them and see what they get up to. I can't imagine they're going to.
There's got to be something. I think they're going to have an ace up their sleeve somehow.
Surely, and it's not going to be Cranky Kong announcement as a playable character like they did at one of the. They teased a massive announcement one time at E3. They're like, yeah, we're going to big announcement, and then it turned out to be Cranky Kong playable and Donkey Kong Country Returns. Everyone went, pun intended, apeshit. They were so unhappy. That was hilarious though.
I think their only mistake was indicating earlier that the NX would be any sooner than that. I think as a company who's pretty much their standpoint on releasing stuff is we'll release it when it's good and ready to be released, they need to just stop putting dates on things. If their mentality is we're not going to put it out until it's done, stop pretending you know when it's going to be done, because you don't. Just make an announcement when it's done saying, in stores tomorrow, guys.
I feel like that in itself would be a really good marketing kind of thing. Like, just keep everything well under wraps. And then like a week before your game or your whatever big thing it is, you're ready to do, just go, here you go, guys.
It happens so rarely, and it would be,
but
people don't take those risks nowadays. Game companies, they need this build up of 6 months to a year of marketing in order to get to build hype and stuff like that.
They need to build pre-orders.
That too.
It's just another instance of capitalism ruining our fun.
Here we go. The closest thing that's done that was Fallout 4. Took risks in which it was announced and then released 4 months later. 6 months. It was announced in June, so 4 months later, October. But things just don't really do that anymore. And I mean, we're talking about the PlayStation Neo, so that's all out in the open now. Sony hasn't announced it, but they essentially have, because it's all leaked, and everyone knows. It's definitely a thing. It's obviously not going to be called Neo. It's going to be called something else.
Well, that was their working title, right? That was like
the
their
code.
internal
It's the code
code.
name.
It was like how PlayStation
Morpheus.
VR was called Morpheus, and now
Right.
it's just PlayStation VR.
Yeah.
So yeah, when we get the third console, it'll be the PlayStation Trinity.
Yeah, I hope they don't go with like a 4.5 naming convention or something like
No,
that.
I don't think they will. It won't. I don't think it'll be called Neo or 4K. It'll be called something else. It'll be called something really bland and boring. I don't have much hope for that. I don't really care about the name.
The
Be it what it
Xbox
is.
Crusher.
Xbox One 2. Everyone knows.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean Neo. We know your position on it, Balthazar.
Yeah.
And you're anti, right?
He's massively anti.
Yeah,
Regan?
he said he won't buy another Sony. I'm pretty sure that was the quote. He won't buy another Sony console.
If they release a 4.5, and it sounds like they're doing it, so
sounds
they've
like they're
just
doing
lost
it.
themselves a future Sony console
sale.
purchaser.
Regan,
I'll
how do you
buy
feel,
it.
man?
Well, the thing about it is that it doesn't seem like it's going to create a division in the market, and that any games that are produced for the second console, whatever it's called, will also be playable in some form of iteration on that. So
They were very clear about that.
yeah, that to me means that I'm not
At a
overly
loss.
concerned. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't just bought my PlayStation 4 yesterday, so if I had, maybe I'd be a little bit gutted.
Yeah.
But that in itself is a saving grace for me, and I think from a consumer's point of view, it gives me that opportunity to sit back and go, well, I'm just going to see if I'm happy with what I have, and then it's up to me whether I want to buy this other thing, and that's the thing. Is like, by them building that in. They haven't said you have to buy one to play the games you want to play.
Yeah.
They've just said you can buy it if you want, and that's okay. I think people just need to calm down.
Yeah, for me, it's seeing what it can do first of all in terms of graphics and frame rate, because I do notice those things a lot.
Yeah.
And there are many games on the PlayStation 4 that have suffered quite considerably due to console restraints. Witcher 3 being one. I mean, that could have run a lot better. So if they market it well, and if they show me something that gives a considerable improvement to what I currently have, then yeah, I'll definitely think about it. The second point is that they're obviously making this because PlayStation VR, they want PlayStation VR to function as good as it can. Now, if VR kicks off and it is a big thing, and it is not just a massive gimmick and it's going to go away in a year, then yeah, I'll definitely consider it. If I can get something that allows me to have the best VR experience possible, yeah, I'll look into it for sure. It's not a given, but if they market it correctly and if they're able to entice me in with, hey, here's God of War 4 on a regular PlayStation 4, here's God of War 4 on PS4K, and it looks like 100, not 100 times better, but 4 times better or whatever. Yeah, for sure.
And this is the thing. Here's something to consider as well. Have our console generation cycles being too long? No, you don't think so?
I don't think so at all. I'll now that there's more information about the Neo, I will make my 2 points that are kind of my 2 points that are, now that I'm more informed, where I stand on it. One, what is the actual purpose of the PlayStation Neo? It's to keep the PS4 relevant by providing a better one. Yet, is it anywhere near the capability of what current hardware can do and can play? No, it's still nowhere near the power of a PC, so what's the point? If you're not going to vie for top spot, just stay where you are. There's no point releasing a new iteration if you're not going to try and make it good. 2, the whole point of a console is to not faff about with all the PC shit, to know that if you get a console, you're on the same level as everyone else who has the console, at least technically. If all games are playable on both PS4 and PS Neo in different modes, let's say one of the modes on PS Neo, let's say you get a choice. You can either bump the graphics and keep the frame rate the same, or keep the graphics the same and bump the frame rate. If I'm playing COD, which I would never do because I don't play COD,
Just by the
and
way.
someone had a Neo and bumped the frame rate to keep the graphics the same, we are now playing on the same console, the same game on the same console that I chose to purchase so that I could play things on the same level as everyone else, but we're no longer on the same level because their improved frame rate does actually give them a competitive edge in a fast-moving game like a shooter. So it's extremely harmful to the online community to do this. on any game at all. And those are my 2 points. One, they're not even vying to replace the PS4 with something that's competitive with PCs. They're still miles behind the plate, so why fucking bother? And you are actually harming the existing PS4 community.
If you're serious...
Don't know if they're going to, but if they allow an option that bumps frame rate as opposed to just graphics. If they're keeping it 30 and just bumping graphics, that's fine. I won't have a problem with still playing, even faster load times, better graphics. That's fine. I'm not at a disadvantage on my PS4. If they do allow a faster frame rate, I'm no longer on the same playing field on my console, which I purely purchased so that I could play a game out of the box on the same level as everyone else.
If you're serious about online first-person shooters, though, surely you would go down the route of just getting a PC anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that is where I play my FPS.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you're sitting on your couch and you're going, oh man, my frame rate isn't good enough on my console for me to be able to play this game competitively, then there's a bit of a disconnect between you wanting to be a competitive gamer and you sort of investing in the best kind of shit that will get you there kind of thing. Like I don't know that you can make that argument when you have the option of just getting the good stuff if you want to be competitive.
Purely because it's Sony. If it was Xbox, you couldn't make the argument because Xbox as a company doesn't try to promote competitive play on their platform. PlayStation actually does. They have their own web series, their whole web series thing, Growing Champions or whatever, where they follow people's progression to becoming a competitive gamer purely on the PlayStation. PlayStation is actually trying to support PlayStation exclusive competitive gamers. Yet they are then also damaging that community by releasing something that could potentially give PlayStation gamers an actual noticeable edge over other PlayStation gamers. I don't know. I'm still out. I'm 100% out. I just think now more information has been released, I can more accurately indicate why I'm out and why I think the whole thing isn't just something that I disagree with, but is actually actively harmful to people who already have a PS4.
It does seem problematic in that respect, multiplayer, but, to be completely selfish, I don't give a toss about multiplayer, so I don't really care. I want to play God of War 4, I want to play Last of Us 2. But, and we'll move on to the next point, there is a new Call of Duty coming out. It's called Infinite Warfare. It hasn't been announced, though the trademark has now been filed, so essentially it has been announced. And it's set in space. I mean, no one cares, we'll move on from that part. Right, so a leaked marketing image came out about this, and this game looks to the Legacy Edition, which God knows what that is, probably some $150 version. Comes with Call of Duty 4 Remastered. Now, Call of Duty 4 is a phenomenal game. It is excellent. It's probably one of my top 10 games of all time. Easily one of my top 360 games that I own. Both single. It's probably the last bastion of multiplayer that I really enjoyed, kind of thing. It was Call of Duty 4. I played the shit out of it.
And this was like you guys were saying the other day, the first Modern Warfare, first of that kind of era.
Yeah, it was. It was the first new COD. It was. It was. Before that, COD was just some World War One game that competed with Medal of Honor sort of thing, and no one really knew. But when it got reborn on the PS3 and the Xbox 360, it got a new personality essentially, and it started what we now know as the COD fandom, which you can see as a good or bad thing. But Call of Duty 4 is an excellent game. It is an excellent game. Both the campaign is the best, one of the best first-person game campaigns I've played ever. It starts off with you in the perspective of a dude, and you get executed. You get killed. The player gets killed in the first 2 minutes of the game. You're dead. And then you also die a couple other times throughout the game. But it's so bold and it's so interesting, the campaign of that game. A nuclear bomb goes off at one point, and you're crawling around, and it's so good. And the multiplayer was good because it's very simple. There's none of this jetpacks and nonsense that are new CODs and none of that. It's just this is what I did anyway. You find a hill, you sit down, you lie down, and you camp. You camp like your life depended on it, and it's glorious. There's so many good maps in that game. So, I mean, this is essentially breaks my cardinal rule, which is I don't get any sort of deluxe versions of games when they come out. I just get the vanilla game. If this comes out and it's only a Call of Duty, one that costs $120, $130, I'll probably buy it. I'm not going to lie, I probably will. And yes, I feel bad about it. yes, I'm probably not going to give a toss about the main thing I'm actually paying for, which is the Infinite Warfare space, whatever.
Will you even play that game?
I'll play it. Yeah,
You'll give it a shot.
I'm way too money stingy to not play that. But I've played like most of the Call of Duty campaigns just because they're so easy to play, and it's just and it just turn my brain off.
Even one with Kevin Spacey in it.
I haven't played the Kevin Spacey one. No. Unfortunately, that one and Ghosts are the two ones I haven't played. But yeah, no, I'm well excited. I can tell from the silence around me that no one else is, but I'm very excited for Call of Duty 4.
I never really... I'm pretty sure, actually, we might have a copy of the original Call of Duty 4 at home, sitting somewhere in it. So I might give it a shot.
Tell you, man, play the campaign.
I can feel the excitement.
Yeah.
If let's say that they released this special Legacy Edition, and it came with that, would you, and they released just a Call of Duty 4 remastered,
right?
Would you just buy the Call of Duty 4 remastered, or would you still get the Legacy Edition?
Oh, definitely buy just the Call of Duty 4 remastered if I could. If it was just digital download, and it was $60, yep, easily, straight away.
There you go. Still pay $60 for that. Yeah, I would be okay with just giving it a shot in just its original condition. I think
it doesn't show its age. I'll say COD 4. I played it probably in the last year at one point. It's very nice. It's still a very nice looking game.
Yeah.
And the campaign. I wouldn't play the multiplayer because it's now filled with wall hackers and things like that because it's so old and people have been able to do that. But the campaign is excellent and it still really, really holds up. It's just really bold. There's a lot of decisions. I mean, I played through Battlefield 3 campaign. It was Battlefield 4. I can't remember because it's both the same. It's the most bland crap I've ever played. It's just it's not eventful at all. The colour scheme's rubbish. It's all grey and blue and shoot these people, move up. Shoot these people, move up. Blow up a tank, move up. You're in a tank now, blow up.
you're in a tank now.
It's so boring. And the CODs at least have some sort of personality. Battlefield doesn't really. The campaigns don't, at least. But
pretty pumped about that, I can tell.
Absolutely, and I'm assuming that's going to be announced at E3.
Yeah.
So that'll be.
It must be a real pain for these game companies, to be working and beavering away on these projects, then have some moron come along, put it online, and just ruin the whole thing.
Oh, it takes a while. They must be fuming.
Their marketing teams must just be like, God damn it! We spent all this money and now they've ruined it.
All the leaks, the leaks of the Neo and the Call of Duty, and moving on to the next one. Uncharted 4 is out in the wild.
Yeah.
The great Uncharted 4 heist. If this is a marketing ploy by Sony, kudos to Sony, because if someone gets held up viciously at gunpoint and that's a Sony marketing tactic, they're going all out.
Big time. When I heard that it was actually they had run a heist.
Yeah.
There was planning in this.
Yeah.
That blew my mind away. These guys, they obviously had some form of weapon.
Yeah.
Did they say they were armed?
Shotgun, I think.
A shotgun.
Yeah.
What? To go out, because when I heard about this, I was sitting at home watching the news, and they were. There was stuff about Syria and all the crazy. The world at the moment is just chaos.
Yep.
Absolute chaos. And then I heard about people holding a lorry driver at gunpoint to get
truck full of Uncharted 4s. Wait, was this on the news?
No, it wasn't on the news.
I was going to say, wow.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah, if it was a PR stunt like you say, then that would have been a win. But yeah, it just boggles my mind that there's someone out there who's keen enough on a video game to go out and put someone's life in danger.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't for one second believe they did it for personal, because they wanted to play the game. I believe they did it so they could sell them on eBay and pawn them off to people. If they did it so just they could play it early, that is one psychotic person out there.
Yeah, they wouldn't have emptied the contents of the truck. They would have taken a copy.
Yeah,
one each and walked away.
But I mean, they're all over Amazon now. Loads of people in the UK have started breaking street dates, retailers, and selling them now as well.
Wow.
Smaller stores, not big chains like Game and stuff like that. But they are out in the wild. So be very, very careful, people. Don't read any YouTube comments, including ours. Don't read any Reddit comments. Just don't read comments.
It's another reason not to pre-order, really, isn't it?
Yep.
Like you pre-order to make sure you secure your copy day one. Oh, someone got it day -14.
Yeah, absolutely. It boggles my mind.
It's pretty extreme. It brought to mind the opening scene of the Fast and the Furious, where they hijack a truck full of DVD players, which is incredible to watch nowadays. Like, they're probably worth about $40 in total.
Yeah.
I mean, if you probably have to pay people to get
high-end electronics, man. It's where it's at. It's where the money's at. DVD players.
DVD players.
I mean, you could maybe do that now with some PlayStation VR headsets or something. I don't know. Or
PSVR would be a massive target. Yeah.
Big time. I would say after this successful heist, maybe we'll see some more.
You sound like you're excited for everything, and I'm kind of worried.
I'm sorry, but maybe
he thinks there's one that glints in his eye.
From us.
I mean, as long as no one dies.
There's going to be a hold up on the Wellington motorway, and Regan's going to be in the back of a semi
black motorbike. Yeah, it'll be very, very.
I'll be watching your balaclava purchasing over the next week. But I think we've got time for. I'd like to touch on one discussion topic, which is it's pretty minimal, but. Which remakes would you guys like to see? This is the PlayStation. The last 2 years, the only 2 years the PlayStation 4 has been out, have been the years of remakes. What remakes do you think would do well on PlayStation 4?
I don't know what would do well, but what I'd personally like to see is Kingdom Under Fire, The Crusaders, and Heroes, both remade on one disc for PS4. These sort of hold, funny I say PS4, games on classic Xbox.
It's a fever dream there.
I would just love to see them remade, even if it's just for PC or something, because I know the very original Kingdom Under Fire was a PC game. They were weird hybrid RTS action RPG games.
Right.
So you would kind of you would pick your armies when you went into a battle based on what you bought or obtained throughout the campaign, and then you control them from top down, moving them across until you clashed with another army, and then it would zoom into third person to your hero, your leader of the army, who would have all kinds of crazy abilities, like one dude could set himself on fire and just run through people.
That sounds excellent.
Yeah, and they were really cool games with really interesting campaigns, because there were like eight campaigns in each game, and it would be the same story from 8 different generals within the army's perspectives. So they were really cool games. I'd love to replay them, but I no longer have my classic Xbox. I still have the games. I don't have an Xbox to play them on.
The title of that game just makes me picture the box art, and it's some generic background with Sean Bean swinging a sword and just...
You wouldn't be too far off.
No?
I'm pretty sure one of them... So I'm pretty sure the Crusaders has one dude on it just kind of standing there solemnly with a castle behind him, but I'm pretty sure Heroes is like a orange embery background with a knight character kind of with his sword held over his head bringing it down.
Sounds about right,
yeah. Interesting games though, but no, the one I'd absolutely love to see, which was a Sony, it's a multi-platform game, Capcom game, Asura's Wrath HD PS4 4K remake, not just HD remake, like absolute remodel, start it again from the beginning, make everything look glorious.
Do the Ratchet Clank.
Yeah, give it to Insomniac.
Yeah, make it a first party franchise, even though it's just like a poorly received Capcom multi-plat game. Love that game. I would love to be able to play it on the PS4 rather than plug it in my PS3 to play it, which I do like 3 times every year. I play through that game. I just fucking love it.
This is going to sound utterly ridiculous, but the first thing that came to mind when I saw this written down was Spyro.
Oh yeah.
I reckon a remastered Spyro or a new Spyro game would be the dog's bollocks.
Yeah.
Spyro with like a really realistic looking style, so the dragons.
For some reason,
Yeah.
when I
Like
think of a
pretty-
modern day Spyro, like a reboot, I kind of blur him and Crash Bandicoot together.
Oh,
so
that's
you've got this
unacceptable.
modern day hipster Spyro standing up on his back 2 legs wearing jeans. That's it. It's
Don't do that.
I'm so offended by that comment.
Did you see the Spyro reboot a couple of years ago or whenever it was? Like they started it again on PS3, I think.
Really?
And they restarted the whole thing, and he was voiced by Elijah Wood. And they made it kind of darker series, it was still very bright and colourful, so I don't know why they said it was darker. But it had kind of like, you leveled up as you went through, you leveled up your different breaths, like fire breath, lightning breath, and it had a much more in-depth combat system. I remember because my sister got them all and I used to have to beat bosses for her because she couldn't beat them, and I enjoyed them. They were quite good from what I played, but I only played bosses.
I think it'd be a really cool thing to do, to make a new version, gritty, dark, have some really solid lore and things, and build a world around it. Just, dragons are so underutilized in video games. Come on, guys.
You guys remember that first game that came out on PS3?
Lair happened, and everyone was like, stay away from dragons forever.
They tried to show off the 6-axis controller.
Oh, yeah, and it was terrible. It was horrible.
Which I will always actually bat for that game. When you learn to make micro movements, and basically, if you are correctly playing that game, someone watching your hands, you're not moving the controller, because that's how oversensitive that game was. The movements were so tiny and incremental to steer that it would look like you weren't even moving.
So it was sort of like, hey everyone, look how sensitive
look
the
at my
DualShock 3 is.
psychic capabilities playing this game. When you mastered it, it was a fun game. It was just nobody could have fun with the game because it was impossible to actually learn to control it. If you managed to learn to use the 6-axis as it worked within that game, it was a fun modern version of old school 3D kind of roaming shooter, like flying shooter games. It was a fun version of them, but yeah, the controls were horrible until you mastered them, and that took me like 10 hours, which I only persevered through because it was the only game I fucking had.
I think to like kind of literate, like, because I'm a big fantasy fan in general, like when I'm reading books and things, I think of something like that's kind of gritty enough but not that gritty, something like Eragon as like a series of books, and the movie was terrible, but that kind of thing. Dragons put on a really like cool and a really cool lore based background. It could be great. Maybe so, something along those lines. But that's my 2 cents.
The Eragon game was terrible as well, by the way.
Oh, did they make a game for it?
I think they made a DS. Was
no,
there
it's console.
There was a DS game as well.
The console game's abysmal.
Oh, I bet.
It's really bad.
It's a shame.
It's just a hack and slash. This is real boring. But obviously, surprising no one. My remakes would be Jack and Daxter, and I know that's already been reviewed out for PS3, but I don't have a PS3 and I can't play them. So
well, that's your fault. That's not
not Crash Bandicoot.
Well,
I almost think that's too old for a remake now. It needs a reboot. Rather than remake the original game, they need to just make a game.
I would pay a lot of money to be able to play Crash on my PS4, but I'd love a reboot. And I mean, our E3 episode is coming very, very soon. I say that every time, but it's literally it's so we'll be doing it at the end of May, maybe first week of June, depending on when the Sunday falls there. But I think we're going to see some Crash.
Yeah,
I think it's coming. I have a good feeling. I have a good feeling in my heart.
We've seen. I mean, I think maybe we mentioned last time there's like people wearing T-shirts and things like that.
Sean Layden, boss of Sony, wearing a Crash Bandicoot shirt.
Whether he just run out of other shirts to wear, I'm not sure. But I guess we'll see. There'll be a lot of people who'll be happy about that.
People will be losing their minds. There are people on the PlayStation 4 subreddit. Who are just pining for a Crash Bandicoot game.
Yeah. And
I'm not sure if they've gone back and tried to play the old Crash games now. Hard as nails. They are so difficult because there's no digital input. It's all D-pad and it's all you press up and he moves a square or whatever. Like it's so hard to, and it's one hit kill in that game essentially. They are tough. Those games.
It's instant death. Back to square one.
But I would pay a lot of money for those. I'm always on the lookout for the PlayStation 1 actual games of Crash Bandicoot because they're rare as now. So
I still have the original Crash Bandicoot in its original case and everything with the manual.
No, if you want to sell it, Anyway, I think that's probably us. Although, do you want to briefly touch on a glitch that you encountered?
Bitch about a glitch.
Bitching about Glitchin's back.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily. I mean, it is a glitch. It's not something broken. It's Dark Souls 3. The Souls games have always been shockers, Bloodborne as well. Mostly physics-based atrocities, where shit just flies around or gets stuck in walls. I noticed a couple that really stood out. One very early on, when my first play session, I was going through the wall above Lothric Castle or above the Boreal Valley, and there's a chest which is a mimic chest. So basically, if you try to open it, it'll just eat you in one shot and kill you. So you have to kind of attack it and fight it as an enemy, and then when it dies, it will drop the loot inside it. And I've tried fighting it a couple of times, and it killed me because I had terrible weapons and attributes, and I didn't level up properly when I first started. So I found that I could climb up a ladder where it couldn't get, and I just pulled out my bow and I was just shooting it over and over. And then I was aiming for a while and I couldn't find it because it had gone underneath the platform I was on. And I'd looked ahead of time. Like, the only way up was the ladder. All of a sudden I'm grabbed from behind and it eats me. It's up on the platform behind me. It just got up somehow through the wall. I don't know. It just got there and grabbed me and killed me.
And you couldn't find any way for it
there
to
was
have got
no
up there.
way for it to have gotten there other than just clipping up through the floor somehow. And another similar one was just there's these enemies that are kind of like the Grudge with 8 arms.
Wow.
And they claw themselves along the ground. And I was helping Kyle out with something at one point, and we run through, and this NPC wasn't there who we were meant to talk to. And we just run there, skipping these enemies just to try and progress an NPC storyline. We turn around to go back out, and the ceiling and walls have just become this enemy. We ran past so many, and they tried to get to us, but we went up this narrow staircase, and apparently they didn't properly path to go around the staircase, and they just tried to get through the wall into the room we were in. And they couldn't hit us, and they didn't even attack us, but we could just see them all clipping through the wall, and everything just became lined with the Grudge. Basically, every direction you looked in, they were just there looking at you.
Oh, wow.
It was horrifying.
Did you get? Oh, it would have been great to get some screenshots of that.
I may have. I'll have to have a look through.
Touches of Silent Hill bleeding in there, where there's literal just arms coming out of the walls, just flailing around.
But yeah, the majority of amusing things you'll see in that game will just be AI behaviour gone wonky combined with the physics or the pathing to just make ludicrous things happen.
Oh, sounds good.
Well, there you have it. That's the end of our show for this week, guys. Thanks for tuning in again, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. Catch you later.
Cookie dip.
Yeah.